Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on this webinar. This is one of my very favorite topics to discuss on these webinars because of the many different ways there are to grow your business. There's one in particular that I think is the single most fun, and that's event marketing, which of course is the topic we're going to be chatting about today. I can think of few, if any, other industries where you can grow just by gathering together with people you like and people who like you, just to come and hear you speak or to have dinner with them, enjoy a fun activity together, or even just stand around and chat. But you can do that with events. But while events are fun and they can certainly be effective, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're easy. In fact, we often see advisors make one of three mistakes when it comes to events. The first mistake is that they just wing it. They show up, not much in the way of planning, and they just sort of improvise it as they go along. The second mistake is that an advisor may hold events, but just sort of assume that people will show up or that it will somehow automatically lead to a return on their investment. And then the third mistake we often see is that an advisor may hold one or two events, not see an immediate return, and then simply stop doing them. In fact, even advisors who are experienced at holding events and may hold events that their clients enjoy often don't see as much of a return from them as they could. But the good news is that there's a simple solution for all of these scenarios, and that's to have an event system in place, a system that accounts for the planning, for the promotion, the execution, and for the follow-up. And that's why I'm so pleased to welcome our guest today. Katie Johansen wears a lot of hats for Old Raleigh Financial Group in North Carolina. But among those hats is that she serves as the team's events guru of sorts. And today she's going to share her system for running seamless, effective, and enjoyable events. And as you'll see, it's not necessarily a complicated system at all. It's certainly something that every advisor today can implement or replicate or personalize for their own use. But it is a system that's based on best practices that work for her, her team, her clients, and her area. Now, Katie is actually going to be a speaker at our upcoming AdvisorCon in May, where she'll actually be demonstrating some of the other processes and systems that make her team one of the very fastest growing on the Bill Good Marketing system. But I really wanted to make sure that people got a chance to hear from Katie on the topic of events. So, Katie, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So just to introduce myself and then to get to know Katie a little bit more before we dive into the topic, very briefly, my name is Matthew Bailey. For those of you who don't know, I'm the head writer and director of client content here at Bill Good Marketing. And Katie, it's been a while since we've had actually a non-advisor be on one of these webinars, but again, we're really glad to have you. So for those who don't know you or aren't familiar with Old Raleigh, please give us a bit about yourself and about your team and your practice and what makes you guys special.
Okay. Thank you. As Matthew said, my name's Katie, and I'm with Old Raleigh Financial Group based in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we are what I like to consider kind of small family boutique-ish style firm. We, you know, we're always looking for kind of in the ballpark, like everyone else, the $1 to $10 million client. Of course, what we really like is a client that is grateful, a client that values our advice, a client that's engaged with us, and a client that wants to be heard. That's what we have found. So all of us on our team kind of have that same idea of what we want as a client and how we want to grow our firm. My role in that is kind of like you said, I wear a lot of hats. I'm essentially the client services associate, so I do a lot of talking to clients and helping, but big part of my role is the marketing and events. So that is what I'm here to talk to you about today.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. Now, before we dive into it, just a couple notes of housekeeping. First of all, if you have any questions, we'd love for you to pose them to Katie. Please feel free to drop them into the chat box, and I'll feed them to Katie as they come in. And then if you are new to these webinars, one of the things that we always like to do is we like to say thank you for giving us an hour of your time by providing you with what we call a goodie bag. And every goodie bag that we offer contains, one or more resources that you can use to begin implementing the things that you learn on these webinars. Today's goodie bag, I think, is really cool because it contains all the items in it are from Katie and Old Raleigh Group, and we're so grateful to them for sharing these resources with us. In today's goodie bag, you're going to find an example of the report card they use for a number of their events, which is a really important part of their follow-up, as you'll see. Katie is also sharing some of her checklists and her role delegation checklist, among other things, that sort of gives you the step-by-step process for planning out the events that they do, which I think is really, really neat. And then finally, we're including an example of one of their invitations that they use to get butts in seats, as Bill would always say. So that's a really loaded goodie bag, and we can't wait for you to get your hands on it. And I'll show you how to get access to these goodies at the end of the call. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Okay, let's dive into the topic without further ado. I wanted to start by sort of looking at the big picture of events, and to do that, I want to ask you, Katie, first of all, why events at all? Why do events play such an important role in your team's marketing? And what are your objectives when you're hosting events?
Okay. Well, the obvious objective for hosting events is to bring in more business. But the, you know, we host the events for a couple different reasons. We have our client appreciation events that we like to host, and that's just to show them appreciation. We also like to host some educational events for clients. There's always something that they're wanting to learn, or something's going on in the financial world that has them concerned. And we found that that's a good time to do events as well. Um, there's several reasons why we do the events. Big one to bring in business, but I think a lot of it also is to educate clients and prospects and to make our clients feel better when things are a little rocky. It's it's better, I think, for the client rather than just getting a phone call if we have a little educational event, say a little lunch webinar or something short. I think it could calm quite a few people at one time. So there's kind of several reasons for the events.
Yeah, I love that, Katie. I remember when we spoke about events, a couple of things that you told me that really resonated with me is you said with every event, you want to make sure that your clients feel at least one of three things. They need to feel educated, they need to feel empowered, or they need to feel cared for.
Correct.
And there are a lot of different ways to do that, like you said, but I think when they're in the same room with you guys, all those things become far more powerful than just getting a phone call or just seeing you on a Zoom call or getting something from you in their inboxes.
I
So
agree.
that really resonated with me. And then another word you used when we were talking before that I thought made a lot of difference was you used the word memorable. And you talked frequently about creating a memorable experience for your clients, whether it's an educational event or an appreciation event. And that matters because you only actually see your clients. Every advisor only sees their clients a couple times a year. Maybe you chat with them a few more times a year. So you need to have that memorable thing that stays with them during all the weeks and months where you're not speaking to them either in person or over the phone. And that makes a big difference in your growth, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think so. And there's specifically two memorable events that come to mind that I think of, and people still they ask about them. And to me also are what I say memorable events also are the ones that people come and mingle.
Mm,
Not just educate, but when we have those events where they're, I guess, more their appreciation, we do like to make them memorable.
right. And I like that word too, mingle.
Yeah,
Having events where people stick around. Oftentimes, when people come into your office, right, they come in for that hour and then they
correct.
leave, and the next person comes in. But with events that you're doing, that you're going to, detail for us here in just a moment,
Yes,
they're staying for an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours, even longer. And that's a real opportunity again to create those kinds of memories when they're mingling, when they're sticking around, they're giving up a significant part of their day to be with you for no other reason than either they trust you and they want to hear from you or they like you. And I think that word mingle is a really key one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And actually, our Christmas party that we have every year is called our Jingle Mingle.
Okay.
And that's the reason, we want people to come and mingle.
I
So,
love that. So
yeah.
let's look at sort of the 30,000-foot view of some of the
Okay.
events that you guys do almost every year. I know you break your events down typically into large, medium, and small events. So I want to hear about some of these individual events in just a moment. But if you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about the difference between these types of events besides just size. Why do you have these sort of different categories as opposed to just doing one big event every year or a few small events every year?
Okay. Well, we do what I consider our large events, like is anywhere from 75 to 200. And we try to invite the bulk of the client base to our large events. And I would consider them our client appreciation. That would be we have a shredded event
Mhm.
the weekend after taxes or, after April 15th. We do it out in the parking lot and we serve barbecue. We get a huge turnout. And, we have an oyster roast. That's another client appreciation event where we invited mainly the whole book, and it was at a club. And then we have our mid-size events. Those I consider more our educational events,
Mm.
mainly, well, half and half, prospects and clients. But the mid-size is mainly educational. That's when we'll do a seminar, we'll do brain health, like you said, market volatility. That's a perfect time to have the mid-size events. And then we have the small targeted events. Those can kinda depend. A lot of those are more our prospect events,
Oh,
and
interesting.
we like that smaller because we want to get to know them. We do something a little out of the norm, like lady shooting event, that was a prospecting event. Golf simulator outing that we did, that was some clients and prospects. But we have found that the prospecting events are better to be held as the small. So that's why I break them up into the large, medium, and small.
That's really interesting, Katie. You know, that your small events you are labeling as your prospecting events, which is a little bit of a twist on, what we've often seen in the past from advisors. So I'm curious about that. When you call it a prospecting event, do you mean that these small events they're almost entirely filled with prospects, or is it a prospect event in the sense that you are trying to get clients to come and bring guests that become your prospects?
It's a little bit of both. What we've done it both ways. We've had for I'm just going to throw out an example of a complete prospecting event that we did, and it was about 25 people. We did 2 nights of it. It's about 25 people at each one, just prospects, no clients. It was a mass mailing.
Interesting.
Um, but at the same time, we, have had clients events as well that have been small where we've asked them to please bring a friend or so that's why I say kind of half and half, but we do stick to the smaller targeted events for prospects.
That's really
And I
interesting.
think if I want to think about it, I want to think the prospect events we've done, the most we've had probably is 30
Interesting.
at a time. And that that has worked pretty well. I mean, it's like anything, if we had stopped after the first one, we would have said we failed.
Yeah.
But, because of course we had really high hopes for the first one, but we had to get our ground. By the second one, we had a better turnout, a better group, that we wanted. Um, so that's just our feeling. We found that the smaller targeted events are better for those. When we have prospects, a lot of times they have questions.
Mhm.
They're not always, there's always a fear sometimes of getting people that are just coming for the meal or coming to see that. And of course, I'm sure we get several of those as well, not everybody, but we try real hard to do our targeted mailing list, which is how I can get those certain people that we want in those prospect um, events.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and we'll get into the promotion of your events in just a minute here. But with that in mind, let's actually walk through a few of these different events so people have an
Okay.
idea of what they are and what makes them work. So I'm just going to throw out a couple ones that resonated with me. When you and I were chatting. I know you mentioned that one of your your biggest ones is the shred event,
Mhm.
which is a pretty popular event among financial advisors. So talk a little bit more about that. How are you getting people to that event, and what does the event itself look like? Because you use the word mingle.
Yeah.
So how does that actually happen with something like a shred event?
Okay, well, first of all, anyone that is a client of ours, everyone gets invited to the shredded event.
Mhm.
And it's literally we bring in the shredded truck and we put it in our parking lot. We set up some tables in our parking lot and we get barbecue catered and we run it from about 10:30 to about 1.
Mhm.
And the clients, they come through with their cars, they pull up, our advisors go to their trunk, take their documents out, put them in the shredded truck, they go park their car, and they get to come and have a barbecue sandwich.
Oh,
That is the bulk of our shredded event. It is a huge turnout. Everybody loves it. If someone doesn't get their invitation that they felt they should have gotten, they call us looking for it. So our shredded event is probably it's a very casual, not a lot goes into it, and it is the most attended event.
excellent. I know another big event that you do is your money manager dinner,
Mhm.
which is held at a pretty interesting location, which we'll
Yes.
show pictures of in a minute. Talk to us a bit about what that event is like.
Okay. We a lot of our money managers, we like to bring in a speaker, once or twice a year from some of the money managers that we use. And we are actually we're members of what's called the Carolina Exotic Car Club here in Raleigh. And it is a venue that's been around maybe 6 years now. It hasn't been a long time. Um, but it is a very unique place. And it's two full buildings filled with exotic old cars. And I mean, really neat cars.
Yeah.
And I'm not a car person, but it is a neat venue. So we have gotten a ton of luck. That is where we hold actually, all of our money manager dinners. We hold it there. And the best part about it, it say may the speaker might start at 6. We usually say it starts at 5:30. Well, from 5:30 to 6, people aren't just standing around. There's a lot to see. They can walk around, look at all these cars. So that I guess we feel like they're not just standing around waiting for the seminar.
Right.
Then by the time it's ready, the dinner's ready, we have the seminar done. And the biggest thing is then people still mingle and they still linger and they talk to their money manager and they will talk to our advisors. And I feel like it's all because of where we're at. It's
Yeah.
at the car club.
Yeah, I
It's
love
just
that.
a different venue and we do not have people that get up and rush out.
Very
So
cool.
that has been a really, really positive thing for our practice, I feel.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a bit about location in just a minute as well. But that's really cool. The idea that they have something to look at and
Mhm.
talk about and experience before the event itself, I think is a very neat twist on the traditional concept of an educational event about how the markets are doing or how your
Right.
investments are doing. Yeah. And then the last one I wanted to ask you about in particular, because I know this is a very popular one that you do frequently, is your brain health events.
Yes.
Talk a bit about those and how those work.
Okay. That is more of an educational slash personal care kind of event that we do, and that we have done for mainly our clients.
Mhm.
And it really has been a neat event. It is not one that really well, it does get into financial because it talks about your brain, it talks about dementia, it talks about the aging brain, how things get more expensive as you get older. It is a phenomenal presentation, and our clients they've really taken to it. And I've listened to it several times, and it's just phenomenal. And it is literally, in my opinion, just an educational self-care
Mm.
event, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Hold on, Matt.
no worries. We do have a couple questions that are coming
Yes.
in. Um,
Okay.
Michael asks, I do mostly Social Security planning for women seminars.
Oh,
Curious if Katie would think this is a worthwhile seminar.
I think that is fantastic. I'll be real honest. We have been talking about Social Security seminars, and
Mhm.
I think gearing it towards women is I mean, I think that's very, very important. But I'm also going to be honest with you. One thing that I have learned the hard way, what most advisors think is important and know is important is really not what people really want to hear about.
Mm. Well,
So that's one thing that I think you got to be careful about because that is so important. And we all know that's important, but it's not always interesting to people. And that's where the hurdle comes. How do you get people to the event for something that we know is important, but we know that they're not really that keen on hearing about it or they don't want to waste their time on it?
yeah.
So
That
that is a really touchy thing about because the advisors have fantastic ideas and it is what we should do. But is that what the clients are wanting to hear?
Well, I think you've said two things already, Katie, that sort of address that intersection between what the advisor knows is necessary versus what the client or
Hmm.
prospect is looking for. Where one, you do a lot of your events at places like the Exotic Car Club, so topics where it's important, you're putting it in a place where people would want to go, and so that's a draw in and of itself. It's not just the topic.
Right.
And second of all, the way you frame certain things, like brain health, or you're becoming the parent to the parent, seminar. You're taking financial topics, but you're putting in a way that people are thinking about and worrying about, even when they're not thinking about it from a financial standpoint at all. Like Alzheimer's and aging, and what's that going to do to me, or what's that going to do to my folks. So I
Right.
think having those kinds of twists on these topics is a really key one.
Yes.
We have another question coming in. I have a couple of other questions coming in.
Sure.
Ken wants to know about your shred event. Is the shred event for clients only, or do you also leave it open to prospects, referrals, client guests, that kind of a thing?
Client, yes, absolutely. And I'll be real honest. It's sometimes one of our advisors, a lot of times he'll put it on his neighborhood. So we do have some other people and we're happy to help them. And also we always hope that they'll become a client. So yes, I would absolutely suggest inviting other people than just clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple other questions coming in from Patty, from Michael, from Olivia, all sort of a similar question.
Okay.
Patty wants to know about, and Michael wants to know who is giving the brain health presentation, and then along those lines, Olivia is asking about these specialized events. Are you bringing in outside experts, or are you presenting on these topics yourself? So
Okay.
break that down for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. So basically the brain health, that is a speaker that we bring in. And it's someone I believe from the Hartford that we use that comes in to talk about that. But it's a doctor out of Massachusetts, I believe, that came up with the whole and Matt, I can actually send you the link for the brain health stuff if you'd like after this, but it's really neat. But and then what was your I'm sorry.
So just in general, when you're doing these very specialized events, are you bringing in outside speakers or doing it on your own?
Okay, so the money manager, obviously, yes, we're bringing outside speakers. Brain health, an outside speaker. When it comes to the seminars, that is mainly us. We do our advisors will do those, like the parent to parent seminars.
Terrific. Now, Patty asks, or Patricia, I apologize, asks a follow up question. Are the outside speakers virtual, or are they in person?
They are in person. We
Terrific.
have speakers in person. Yes.
Okay, great. And then we also have a question from Gabriel, who asks, "What type of events do you utilize mass mailing for, or
Okay.
let's see, or ways to invite people that see a good conversion rate?" And I know we'll talk about promotion in just a minute, but what events are you doing mass mailing for versus more targeted promotion that are just for clients or specific prospects or what have you?
Okay. The big event that we have honed in on with the mass mailing has been an event that we call becoming the parent to the parent. And the reason why everybody, all of us are going to age,
Mhm.
and we all hope to age and still have our parents.
Yeah.
And as we age, our parents are going to need some help. And what we have found, it's not always easy to get the children to want to talk to the parents or the parents to want to talk to the children, but it's important.
Mhm.
And it's not okay to wait till it's too late. And that's what happens a lot. So that's why we honed in on this subject. And also personally, a couple years ago, I was caring for my father-in-law. It all kind of hit ahead together, and we all came up with this subject.
Mm.
And it's literally becoming the parent of the parent. And the way we have done it is that has been a mass mailing. What I have done is I gave the company that we use, basically my criteria, basically home value, different criterias in the zip codes.
Mhm.
That's how we brought it in. Now we sent out 6,000 mailers. So
Oh,
right. So you got to remember, you 6,000 mailings, getting 40 people in the room, it was actually fantastic.
right.
So that's where I think people can get discouraged and not want to do them again.
Mm,
So if because I feel like the first night when we only had maybe 30 people, I thought, oh my goodness. But as time went on, I realized that's really a good amount of people coming from a mass mailing that don't know who you are.
right. Yeah, terrific way of getting your brand out into the
Correct.
yeah.
So I feel that's the biggest thing is don't get your hopes up too much because it's easy to give up and say I can't do them well and not do it again.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the first parent to I'm going to tell y'all a little story. The first parent to parent night that we had, it was not so fantastic. We had little cars on the tables and they got walked out with.
Oh.
So, I mean, I'm just telling you that was our first night's event. So it was kind of like, okay, maybe we shouldn't do, but we did not give up.
Right.
We tried it again. I put in some different criteria. We still sent out 6,000. We still got in about the same amount of people, but we got in a different group of
Mm,
people, if that makes sense. So if I'd have left it at that first parent to parent when those cars walked out the door and thought, well, I'm not doing this again, we might would have lost out on some business. So I think that's the thing. You got to, like you said at the beginning, you got to keep trying.
yeah. Bill has always said there's two mistakes that an advisor can make when it comes to their marketing. You get a bad or you get a good idea and you abandon it, or you get a bad idea and you stick with it.
I
Um,
think that's yes.
I
Yep.
love that. We have a lot of other questions coming in about
Okay.
promotion. I'm going to save those for about 5 minutes from now when we get into that. So let's actually get into the nitty gritty a little bit more about your event planning process and how you personally are thinking of these events and actually getting them off the ground up and running. So when you first start planning an event, where do you start? What are you thinking about, Katie? How do you come up with these event ideas or themes? Where to hold it. Just sort of walk us through your process and your checklist for planning
Okay.
these types of events.
Well, the first thing is usually we like to just start out the year with, say, 4 to 6 events.
Mm,
I know that that's what we want to have. I know for a fact Shredded's one, and I
mhm,
know for a fact our Jingle Mingle's one. So there's two out of the way.
right.
So the first thing I think about is the date. I'm going to find a date
Yeah.
before I do anything.
Okay.
And then I'm going to decide where we're going to have it. Those to me are the two biggest things. Let's find out the date and when we're going to have it. And then so we'll go ahead, do that, deposit, whatever needs to be done. The next thing is deciding the subject that we're going to do. That all depends. A lot of times it depends on what's going on in the world.
Mhm,
It depends if we want to do another, say, parent to parent. It depends if we've got a money manager coming in, but the subject matter. Um, and then we start on what honestly becomes what I feel is one of the difficult things, and that's segmenting our book and picking who we're going to invite to which event. When it comes to our money manager events, that's pretty easy because we're going to invite the clients that use that money manager.
mm,
That's not too difficult. As we have other events, we've learned our segmentation from you, the ABCD. So we throw out which groups or group we're going to invite. Um, and all of this, I try to start a lot of it. I say 8 to 10 weeks. It's actually probably more than that, but you really only need about that to do the full um, list. Um, we also decide if we're going to want prospects
mhm,
as well with it, or any center of influences, anything like that we want. Um, when you talk about, we do also like to clarify the audience.
mhm,
That's a big thing too. Obviously, if we brought in, a bunch of 20-year-olds for parent to parent, that's not going to fly
right.
real well. So, that's a big thing, making sure we know our audience, the type of audience that we're going to have for that event. We also go ahead and decide a bunch of the marketing stuff, what we're going to use to promote it,
Okay,
whether it be just an invite, whether it be if it's going to be a small event, are we going to call? So we make all those decisions prior to even starting
I love that.
the planning process. And a lot of that I keep up. I mean, I am a very old school. I like my pen and paper, and I will go down my checklist and mark it off, initial, put a date when it's done. I think all of that's very important. I think a lot of us have forgotten about that because we've got computers and we've got AI. I am sorry. The pen and the paper and the spreadsheet is the best thing still, and it's easy to just mark when it's complete.
I love that. Now, with checklists like the one we have on the screen, is it just you who's managing that, or is that something that gets passed around through the whole team?
A
How are you
lot
using a checklist like this exactly?
Okay. A lot of times I start a lot of it. Now there is always I have help with all the ideas and things like that. But when it comes to this checklist and getting everything ready, I would say it's mainly me. I will say I've got Kathy, who is our operations. She helps a lot with it. She's been around a lot longer than me. So I do rely on her to let me know if she thinks it's and things. So I would say her and I do a lot of it together, but it does end up falling ultimately on me. This is my job. So, and also budget. I forgot to put that in there. With every event, we do try to set a budget.
What does your average budget look like for most of
It
your events?
depends on the event. So if we're going to do a large event, our really large events, we're looking at 75, 10,000, maybe a little more.
Mm,
Our medium-sized events, which I would say are our money manager events, use that as the term. We're going to look anywhere from 5 to 7,500. We usually look to spend about $75 to $100 a plate.
gotcha.
And then our small events, little prospecting events, normally I would say 25 to 5,000.
Okay.
So that's roughly our budgets. Now I'm going to tell you there's some that fall way under
Mhm.
and there's some that go a little over. We try not to go way over.
Right.
But that we do try I try to stem within the budget with these type of events.
Well, and I think that's why you said something really key. You try and get all these things taken care of before you even start
Correct.
on the event. And I think that's a really underrated aspect of ensuring that event marketing stays within budget or, falls under budget. Some of the numbers you sent me, Katie, I was actually really impressed with how often you guys come in significantly under budget from what I can see. And I think a lot of that comes from having checklists like this, from getting all this done in advance of promoting the event or getting too deep into the actual process of putting it on, because those costs can really start to skyrocket and
Right.
build on each other when you're sort of making things up as you go along, or pivoting when you weren't planning to. So getting this kind of stuff done well in advance is a terrific way of getting that higher ROI, because you're keeping your costs down and predictable.
I agree 100%.
We have a question from Kelsey asking, do you incorporate sponsorships into your events or planning?
We really not really.
Okay.
We probably well, let me take we do a lot of stuff with the Boy Scouts. Things like that. And we do a lot of stuff with the SPCA and animals.
Okay.
So but we don't do enough. I wouldn't say we do a lot of events with them. I mean, I know with some of our events, for example, Shred It. I should have said this. At Shred It, a lot of times we'll have something you can donate to the SPCA.
Gotcha.
But bringing true, that's kind of hard to.
So occasionally you have partnerships, but the sponsorship
Yeah.
in the classic sense,
Yes.
really something you
Thank you.
guys have needed to do up to this point.
Correct. Thank you.
And I like that, because I mean everyone has to decide for themselves whether having sponsorships, whether it's a wholesaler or whatever,
Right.
is important for them. There's no right or wrong answer there. But
Hmm.
one of the things that I think makes your events so successful, Katie, and we talked about this before the webinar today, is your events. You talked about how it needs to be memorable. You want people to mingle, and you want to make sure they're educated, empowered, or cared for.
Yes.
And there's an authenticity to that that I think shines true in your events, and it's why they're popular. It's why you get prospects coming. It's why you get client guests coming because they're so authentic. They're there for the client's benefit and not just so you can, make a buck. So yeah, I think you have to be really careful about things like sponsorships. If that affects in any way the authenticity of the event you're putting on, you're probably going to see diminishing returns as a result of it. Does that ring true to you in your experience, Katie?
It does, and also a lot of times you can have in my opinion, they can talk a little bit over the client's head, so the client feels worse when they leave than they came.
Gotcha. Okay.
If that or feels more confused, I shouldn't say worse.
Now, you mentioned before, that you and Kathy handle a lot of
Mhm.
this, but I know delegation is a big part of your event planning. So talk a little bit about, who controls what when putting on events, and how the team shares in this process.
Okay. Well, Kathy, like I said, she's our operations. She's definitely the be all in our office. And so she's the big basically when I come up with the budget and all that, I'll run that by her. She helps a lot with that. When it comes to the content, that a lot of times I will kind of gather it together and then leave it to our advisors to put it together how they want to present it. We always look over it as well to make sure, and then of course we've got our marketing. The marketing is normally me. Um, I will say, and I don't know if I'm kind of backtracking, but one thing we have noticed is with marketing, a lot of the marketing emails or reminder emails or anything like that about an event, we have very good luck when they come from Kathy,
Mm,
not the advisor.
interesting.
And we have proven it. We have studied the open rates. So that is the only thing I can think of is because our clients are used to hearing from the assistants on a normal basis. Oh, we got to update your name or it's time to do this. It's the advisors they hear. Don't get me wrong, they hear from them. They call them. They need to talk to them. But the advisors are on a mission. There's a real reason normally. So that's the only thing we can figure out. But I tell you, our clients open our emails when they come from the assistants for the events. It seems like a lot better than the advisors.
No, that's really interesting. I think that's a good segue into the promotion aspect of your
Okay.
events. And you put up here, find out who on your team gets the highest open rates
Yeah.
and have the invitation come from that person.
Yeah.
I love that because people get inundated, with stuff
Yeah.
all the time. But when there's someone on your team who they know if I'm getting it from this person, it's either going to be something I really enjoy or something that I know I need to take care of. That has a real effect on your response rates. And oftentimes when we do promotions for events, we don't really pay attention to who it's coming from. But what you've done is you've actually looked and see, man, this one person gets a higher open rate than anyone else on the team. So we better make sure the event invitations come from that person. I think that's really critical and not done very often.
I agree. And really, it's not that difficult to figure out and just keep doing it because you might as well. The one that gets the highest open rates, have them send those emails.
Now, and so that leads me to my next question, Katie. So most of your events or all of your event invitations are in fact via email only. Is that correct?
Not all.
No.
No. No, I apologize. No.
Okay.
It all depends, and I'll be real honest, I can't give you an exact reason why. Like shredded's always email,
Okay.
always. And also when we do email invites, we never attach. We do not attach anything. We make sure they're in the body of the email. That's another thing that we've studied and found. People are scared of attachments.
Oh, yeah.
It is that time right now. So we have found if that is not that's not good. So we do like you see this golf invite that's up. We make up that golf invite. We sent that out in the body of the email.
Love
So
that.
when someone opens up that email, they open it up to that. There's no attachments. They know it's from Old Raleigh Financial. They know it's safe. So that's a big thing if you're emailing invites that we have found. Do not send attachments.
Gotcha.
Um, Now the golf we send shredded, we send our prospecting events are always mailed.
Okay.
Those are always mailed. And then Some of our money manager events we have mailed, but I would say it's mainly the prospecting events that we always mail, and more clients are mainly emailed.
Now, we have a question about that. Are you using any particular tools like MailChimp, Levitate, or another system to send out your
Levitate,
invites and track? Levitate?
levitate. Mhm.
Why Levitate?
Honestly, Levitate is a local company right here, based where we are. They came to us when they first opened and asked us to try to use it because they wanted to get in the financial world.
Mhm.
We told them we would, and we were their first financial people, so that's how we got them.
So we have a question from Kelsey about how do you keep track of who's attending for the ones where you're sending only mail for prospects? What's your system there?
I have a spreadsheet. My 6,000 people go on my spreadsheet.
So every name on your spreadsheet, and then
Well,
you're
what it is, the company that we use, that I have a portal. And
gotcha.
so basically I can download a spreadsheet. But what it is there's an RSVP number. People call in, they RSVP. So the whole portal keeps track of it for me for the RSVPs. So my job after that is wait till they've all RSVP'd, once they do, then I go through and start and because they have a deadline to RSVP,
Mhm.
then I start the reminder calls. Then we start the calls of what would you like to eat? These are our two options that we're having because
Yeah.
we found that's another touch point for prospects. So we're having this or this. What I'd like to know what you would like.
Mhm.
So we've got that, and then we've got our follow up reminder email to them the day before.
Gotcha. And you
But all
also
of that is kept track literally
mm,
from when I get my RSVP list. It goes on a spreadsheet, and I literally go in and put an X next to them with every piece of communication I got.
gotcha.
It's that simple. Then I do the same thing after, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but it's literally that simple. I put the date at the top and go down and mark when I contacted them.
Does that end up going into your CRM
Mhm.
afterwards?
Yes.
Okay.
And also our CRM is where all basically we set up all our emails and everything are sucked in that way.
Mhm.
So the good thing is any prospects that I might be emailing with, they get put in my CRM automatically.
Okay. Gotcha. Now, I believe too, you often will call if it's a client event, you're going to call clients as well to confirm whether they're coming or not, and that's often how you get a number of people to these events is the call, not just the invite. Is that correct?
Correct. One thing that my boss tells us all the time is pick up the phone.
Mm.
People like to talk to us. I mean, they do. Don't get me wrong, people are busy too. But it is nice, I think, to pick up the phone and physically invite someone, um, to an event. I think it says a lot. It's very personal.
Along those lines, something I want to throw out. I know you guys aren't currently doing this, but I've seen it work very well with other advisors. Is experimenting with voicemail, specifically with leaving a voicemail. If you're doing a client event, or if there's a specific prospect you want to come, calling them and aiming to leave a voicemail, with a message along the lines of, "Hey, we're doing, this golf simulator event, or we're doing a shooting event, or we're doing this. I know that's something that you love to do. We would sure love to have you there, and we'd hate it if you missed it. So, please let us know if this is something you can come to." We've had a lot of advisors who, when leaving a voicemail specifically, to specific clients or prospects with that sort of very tailored message, that's often the single best way to get people, thinking, man, I really would hate to miss this when they're thinking of me when they're putting this on. So that may be something for all of you listening you want to experiment with is that highly personalized voicemail or text message when there's someone key who you really want to come to these smaller, more targeted events.
I agree. I agree completely with that. And people don't leave voicemails a lot anymore. So, it's people are more apt to listen to them.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that you guys are really good at is getting your clients to bring guests to these events. So talk a little bit about that. What are some of the things that you guys do to get clients to bring guests, and how often is that happening?
Okay. Well, the first thing is we just flat out ask,
Hmm.
you know, would you like to bring a guest to the event? And a lot of times we hear yes. Also, we have a lot of clients that it never fails. During one of the event, one of the spouses is out of town. They ask if they can bring a neighbor or a friend, you
Hmm.
know, and that's great. Um, We also have uh, those are the two biggest ways. First of all, just ask. And
Yeah.
then when one of the spouses is out of town, they always want to bring someone because, that always happens. But also, another way I think we've gotten people to bring other people to events is the venue that we have it at.
Yeah.
Some of our clients come in and they might know Joe Blow over here or something, and hey, you might enjoy this, that kind of thing. Just talking kind of around where we hold our events. Like I said, we're pretty lucky where we hold one of our biggest events at that car club. And that is another way. I mean, we're in that car club. Not everybody there, nowhere near everybody there is a client of ours.
Mhm.
But, they see an event going on and they may know Joe over here. Joe, what is that? And Joe says, well, this, why don't you come check it out with me?
Yeah.
So that's how there's no real targeted way, but it flat out just asking is the best way. And then we find the second best is when a spouse is out of town. They want to bring someone.
Well, I think the two of those things are really key, Katie. Where one, just asking. I think a lot of times advisors, they don't want to come across as being too solicitous, so they don't ask, they don't promote it. They're just sort of hoping that it happens. And what you're saying is, look, let's just be direct about it.
Yeah,
Someone says no, they say no, but
correct.
let's put it in their minds that, hey, you can bring a guest to this, and we'd love for you to do that. And that leads into the second thing where one of the things that Bill has always preached when it comes to events is you want to host these events in places that people normally don't go to or get to go to. Whether in your case it's that exotic car club, whether it's backstage at a theater,
Right.
whether it's your local Major League Baseball stadium, you actually get to go see the locker room. Whether it's a restaurant that people normally, that I only get to go there if it's a really special occasion. When the location itself is something that is out of the ordinary, that would make people go, I've never been in there before, I'd love to see what it's like.
Mhm.
That on its own is going to make people more likely to bring their neighbor, bring their relative, bring their coworker, if especially if it's something that they both share the same sort of interest together. And again, when you are being direct about it, when you're putting in their mind, would you like to bring someone to come to this exotic car club? Well, yeah, my friend loves cars. He'd love to come. Why wouldn't I bring him? So combining
Exactly.
those two things together, I think, is a really simple but extremely underrated way to get clients to bring guests.
Yeah. And it's just like you said, simple.
Now, there is another really effective way of getting clients to bring guests to your events, and that's something that Bill has talked about for decades, and that's getting your relationship mapping done. And I wanted to just take a minute to really highlight this because it's so critical. Now, you mentioned, Katie, that you don't really need to be too targeted about it, but some advisors do need to be targeted about it. And the more targeted you are, the more effective it's likely to be. If you have not gotten your relationship mapping done, finding out who your clients know that you would like to know, finding out who your clients spend their personal time with. If you have a client who loves fishing, who do they like to go fishing with? If you have that doctor who loves to go golfing after their rounds at the hospital are done, who else are they golfing with? Finding out who these people are, who their relationships are, getting that into your CRM, tracking how they're connected, what hobbies and passions they share together. That can oftentimes be the single best way to get clients to bring guests. Because if you're doing an event that's based around a client's hobby or passion, and you know who they like to share it with, who they spend time doing that with, you can, to Katie's point, say, hey, Bob, we're doing a golf event coming up next month. I know you love to go golfing with your friend Steve. Why don't you bring Steve along? More often than not, Bob is going to love to bring Steve along to that because it's something that they both share together. So get your relationship mapping done, find out what your clients' hobbies and passions are and who they share those hobbies with. And then to Katie's point, bring it up directly. And if a client's spouse can't attend, suggest they bring that friend or that family member or that neighbor who you already know about. And if you combine all of that with the unique setting, the more likely clients will bring guests to the point where you don't even know what to do with them all because you have so many client guests at all these events, which I know has been the case for you, Katie, and a lot of the events that you guys hold.
Yes.
Um, a question from Todd about the car club. You've mentioned, I think Todd may have came in a little bit later, may have missed it. Just really quick, what is that car club exactly?
It's called the Carolina Exotic Car Club,
Okay.
and it's literally a building you walk in, and I mean, it's beautiful. You walk in the front door and it's couches and chairs, and there's a little bar. And then to the right, you go in the big open room where it has big oriental, beautiful rugs, and then bunch of old and exotic cars down the left side and the right side, and a stage up front and some tables.
We actually have some pictures of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep. So
yeah, it looks
that's
like a beautiful hall.
it really has got an airplane in the ceiling hanging. I mean, it's really a neat place, and we have had oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you too, also in there, they've got the TVs all around the room.
Mhm.
So our presentation is on about 6 or 7 TVs,
Okay,
but we still try to seat all the guests faced our presenter. We don't want anybody's back to the presenter.
I love that.
So we try to put only we've counted it, no more than 6 people at a round table and face them front.
Interesting. Okay. Um, with the Carolina Car Club, did you guys have to, negotiate with them to be able to use a space like this? Do you have to pay to use a space like this? I'll talk a little bit more about the logistics
Yeah,
of having an event in such a highly specialized
yeah.
location like this one.
It is a member-only club,
Okay.
so that is the big thing that is neat. Not just everybody can go there.
Mm.
It's not cheap. So with us being able to have a corporate membership, it really is a plus because it's like people know of the Carolina Exotic Car Club, and you can't go if you don't have a membership. So that's another perk of
Mm.
it. Hey, we're going to have an event and it's at the Carolina Exotic Car Club. Would you like to come? A lot of people don't care what kind of event we're having.
Mm.
They just, and that's also though where we have to be careful. So it's a double edged sword because it's a fantastic event, but you can also get people that just want to come just for that. But that's going to happen, but it's a member only. Anybody can be a member, but we are corporate members of
Good.
the Carolina. And they've got another, and I something tells me this is going to start taking off because we now have the second one here in Raleigh. So it's got to be coming to other towns. We can't be the only ones.
No, and honestly, to be honest, Katie, you're not the first advisor to do
Okay.
something like this.
I was
Um,
gonna say, because I feel like they're really, like I said, I mean, this is only about 6 years old, but there's already another one. So it's like they're coming everywhere.
Yeah, we have another advisor up in Michigan who is also a terrific event marketer himself, and he will often do events either at a local. It's not a car club; it's a dealership, but it's a dealership that specifies or specializes in historic cars.
Now
Uh,
that's neat.
and so, oftentimes, what even gets to happen is people who come will get to go and drive around the block in that car from the 1920s, or the Aston
That's
Martin that's like they see in the spy movies, that kind of a thing. Um,
Yeah,
this is something that every advisor can do. It doesn't have to be cars. If there's a
correct.
particular passion that you have, I
Mhm.
remember working with one other advisor who was a pilot, and he would occasionally do events in the pilot's lounge of the airport.
Oh, wow.
So people would love to, go to this pilot's lounge, and they get to, chat with other pilots, or they get to see the planes up close. So anything that you are personally involved in, or you have a passion for, involve your clients in that thing. If you can be a member of, whatever club or organization, that's tied with that hobby or passion that you have. Sometimes that's all you need to do to really make these events pop, regardless of what it looks like or where it is.
Yep. You're right.
Now we're almost out of time. I did want to talk a little bit about follow up. What are you guys doing after the event to turn, whether it's prospects or whether it's a client bringing guests, to actually turn that into new business? So walk us through a bit about your follow up process after
Okay.
every event.
Okay. Well, first of all, depending on if they're seminar educational events, presenters, we always have a report card.
Mhm.
At the end of it, the one thing that I learned, and I believe I actually learned this from Bill Good, we do not We do not give that out at the beginning. We give that out, a little bit later so that they will actually feel, and then I physically go around and pick it up. I don't wait for them to bring it to me as they're leaving.
Gotcha.
And our goal, like everyone, is to get appointments on the books before they walk out the door.
Okay.
That does not happen all the time, nor do we expect it. They're
Right.
not, but that's our goal. So we do have me or someone sitting there with our laptop ready to make some appointments as people walk out if need be. Um, the biggest thing, most important thing, the next morning, as soon as we get in the office, there's already an email teed up with the event to say thank you. So it's the first thing that that client or prospect gets in their email that morning. And if it's a prospect, I'm going to get their email address from the report card that they have left me. So I will have all their info. But that is the first thing. And it's a thank you for coming email, no matter what event it is. And that's morning after. After that, and for a prospect after that, we normally will wait about 10 days if we don't hear anything, and then we'll start reaching out by phone. Now, immediately after an event, if you're a prospect, you go on our Wilson letters. And that will start the beginning of our Wilson letters. And we have very good luck with our Wilson letters. We've even had two people that we are prospecting with our Wilson letters that have moved. And they
Mm,
called us. They're not clients yet, but they called us to inform us how much they love our letters and wanted to give us their new address so that we could continue sending them our Wilson letters.
I love that.
So those Wilson letters go a long way, especially with these prospects that have just come to an event with us.
Yeah. So that's really key, isn't it? Making sure that you are dripping on people who are
Yes.
coming to your events, that they are seeing your name. And it goes back to that memorability thing we talked
Yes.
about in the beginning. Seeing your name, building that top of mind awareness, how key that is. I love that.
Hmm. And our Wilsons go out the same day of every month. The 15th of every month, a set of Wilson letters go out of my office.
Terrific.
So it is like clockwork.
Excellent. We have a question from Shelly, a really good one. Any tips on getting prospects to complete the report card and provide their contact information?
I will be really honest. I don't have problems with that.
Mm,
Um, every once in a while, well, normally what they do, let me take that back. I don't have any problems with getting them to fill out their information.
okay.
Now, very often I get them at the bottom it says I have no questions and don't want to be contacted.
Sure.
That's very common, but that doesn't mean I don't drip on them.
Right.
I'm not going to offend them and call them right away, or anything like that. But I really don't have problems, and I think part of it is because I don't wait for them to bring me their report card. I'm almost bothering them.
Right.
Literally, I hand it out and I come back around to pick them up. So I think that that might be why. I don't know if I make them uncomfortable or what, but I don't have too much problem getting them to fill out the report cards.
Well, I think again, sort of the theme of this whole webinar, I think, Katie, in a lot of ways, is how simple the process for every step of putting on an event are. When you're saying that you're handing them out, a little bit later, it's not just sitting on the table, and
Yep.
then you're coming around specifically. I think most people they're happy to fill this out, especially if
Yep.
they've enjoyed their time or they benefited from some way. Just the simple act of, here, I'd like you to fill this out, or hey, I'd love to take that from you now, is
Yeah.
often enough to get people to fill out their report card. um, and,
Yeah.
again, if they've enjoyed their time, they're usually happy to do that. Frankly, we've seen something very similar when we do events here at Bill Good Marketing. So a really simple solution, but certainly an effective one.
Yeah. And one last thing, real quick, that I want to say about the prospecting events that we also do. We put in front of each plate a small old Raleigh Financial Group notepad and pen. So anything that they hear, they can jot down on their notepad and they can leave with their notepad. So they're taking a branded pen and a branded notepad as well when they leave. So that
Awesome.
was just something else that I wanted to throw out there. That's another thing that we make sure we do, and that's at prospecting and client events. We always have notepads and pens for the clients or prospects to write any notes for anything that they hear is interesting.
Excellent. Well, we're about out of time. I'd love to keep chatting about this further, and I'd frankly love to hear more about everything that you're doing, Katie and Ola Group. But for that, we have our AdvisorCon 2026, where you are going to be one of our all-star lineup next year. I've been putting together our AdvisorCon agendas for almost 10 years now. I'm as excited for next year's as I've ever been. Every speaker is one of the fastest growing speakers we currently have on the Bill Good Marketing System. And they're all going to be sharing the specific, what I like to think of as force multipliers in their practice that are helping them grow as rapidly as they are. We have advisors who are going to be talking about prospecting to the high net worth community and how he's been able to accelerate his growth by doing that. We have advisors talking about prospecting to business owners. One advisor who's grown by 100 million each of the last 2 years, almost entirely through building a virtual pipeline that starts with podcasts and ends with a Zoom call. We have advisors like you, Katie, who are going to be talking about search engine optimization and the various systems of growth, all kinds of incredible topics we're going to be covering. That's going to be in May. In Nashville, Tennessee, May 15th, specifically in Nashville, Tennessee. So we are selling tickets to that now. You should know, however, that our early bird special, which enables you to get tickets for about $1,000 off, that is ending at the end of this month, December 31st. So if you are interested in attending AdvisorCon, and again, I think it's going to be an absolutely dynamite event. Definitely want to look into getting your tickets now before the early bird ends at the end of this month, and we'll have more information about that on the report card. Now, speaking of the report card, we'd love for you to fill that out because if you do, you'll get access to the goodie bag that we mentioned at the top of the call. And today's goodie bag contains a number of the resources that Katie uses to plan her events. A sample report card, her different checklists that we showed you earlier on, and an example invitation. So to get your hands on those goodies, just scan the QR code on your screen or go to bgmtips.com/events. That'll take you to the report card for this webinar. Only takes about a minute to fill out. Let us know what you'd like to hear from us about in the future, and then you'll be taken immediately to the goodie bag from there. So definitely scan that QR code, fill out that report card, and then get your hands on the goodies. Now, we do have a question I want to make sure we ask for those of you who are still with us. Rick asks us, what's the Wilson letter? So, Rick, that's a great question. The Wilson campaign is a campaign that we have here at Bill Good Marketing, where every month advisors will send out a letter to their social connections, their business contacts, their prospects, or even sometimes their clients. Every letter is what we call a no key letter, which means it's so low key, it's no key. It is non solicitous. It is not trying to automatically generate business. It's not has no call to action. But every letter is about whether it's heartwarming human interest type stories or general financial topics. Every letter covers something that people want to be reading about, that makes them feel educated, makes them feel empowered, makes them feel cared for. And just the confluence of receiving those letters every single month oftentimes is enough to turn connections and prospects into clients themselves, because they're seeing your name every single month in a way that they associate with feelings that make them feel good, that make them feel inspired, that make them feel empowered. So the Wilson campaign is one of the most effective drip campaigns that we have here at Bill Good Marketing. Definitely one of the most popular campaigns that we have. As Katie says, something that they never fail to send out to anyone who comes to any of their events. So if you're a client of ours, definitely make sure you're taking advantage of the Wilson campaign and those letters. And if you're not currently a client of Bill Good Marketing, definitely let us know. We'd be happy to send you more information about that campaign, as well as the other types of content that we have. Okay, we're out of time. Katie, thank you again so much for joining us today. It was a blast to hear from you, to see what you guys are doing to grow, how you guys are using events to do it. We're all just thrilled to see the kind of success you guys have had over the past couple of years. So again, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
For all of you who joined us today, thank you for giving us an hour of your time. We hope you enjoyed this webinar as much as we did putting it on. Again, feel free to scan that QR code, fill out the report card, and get those goodies. Make sure you look into AdvisorCon. Again, early bird is going to be ending on December 31st, so definitely take a look at that. In the meantime, from everyone here at Bill Good Marketing, hope you guys have a great holiday season. Thank you again for joining us. We can't wait to see you on our first webinar next year. And in the meantime, again, happy holidays, happy new year, and we'll see you again in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.